Hi, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. This is Amy from With Love by Amy, and today we are going to make a monochromatic New Year's Eve card. I'm using this shimmery silver cardstock. It's been in my stash for a long time. If you can't tell, up in the upper right corner it says it's Creative Memories, and the pack of paper was only $8, which I know was really cheap for Creative Memories, or it would be today. So what we're going to use is that shimmery silver cardstock, and we're just going to make a card panel with those Altenew number dies. And all these things are things that I pulled out of my stash that I haven't used in a really long time. I did share this card on Instagram the other day, but I didn't get the video finished. It was for a hop that was themed of all the same color, so monochromatic, and celebration. So I thought this was like perfect because it fits both bills. It's monochromatic and it is a celebration card because it's for New Year's. So what I'm doing here, because there's only one of the twos, we are going to we're going to die cut this because it's going to be a shaker card. We're going to die cut it, and we're going to leave the space for the other two. And we're just going to line it up and put a piece of tape on it, and then we're going to run it through the die cut machine. And then after we're done with that, we are going to move the two and put it in there in that missing spot. And we need to make sure that we keep the negatives from the number, or from all the numbers, because like the 0, we're going to put that space in there, the little center thing. I don't know what it's called, just the negative of the 0, so that it looks complete. And one of the things that I learned from my last shaker card that I made not too long ago is you have to put way more shaker bits into a shaker card to make it look cool than you really think you do. And I realized on my last shaker that I kind of skimped out on the shaker bits, and I was disappointed in myself. But this, the strip that I have the numbers on, it's going to be, I think it's 3 inches by 5 inches, so, or something like that, just so that there's enough space to put the to put tape around there. I want to make sure there's enough space for foam tape around the outside of the strip. And now we're going to make the card panel, and yeah. So yeah, it's going to be 3 by, maybe it's 5 1/4. I can't remember what the dimensions were on that. So it might be 3 by 5 1/4. And we're just going to make the back of it now. And I do want to make the back of the cardstock a little bit smaller than the front, just so that, because I've always had these issues when I make shaker cards that they don't line up properly when I put the back on after I fill it up with shaker bits and stuff, and I don't want that to like overlap the front part. So if it's a little bit smaller, it's fine because it's going to be layered onto another card panel. And we are just putting some score tape on here so that we can put our acetate window on there. And you can use packaging if you have it from any kind of, I'm sure people got like a million different Christmas gifts with like some stiffer clear plastic on it, but I actually had transparencies, so that's what I'm using, because I feel like my box of transparencies that I probably bought in the late 90s is like never ending. So I actually used the transparencies when I first got them to make a recipe book with double-sided recipes, and I do occasionally look at the recipes that I did so much work to put into that recipe book, but it is what it is. All right, so now we're going to put the foam tape on here, and I'm trying really hard. I should measure it, but I'm going to try really hard to make the tape lines with the foam tape really clean, so that if you look at the side of the card, it's not going to look like a giant mess, you know? So I'm trying to measure properly and fit it all in. But we do want to make sure that that there's no gaps in between the pieces of foam tape, because if there are, then the shaker bits will fall out. And we certainly don't want that to happen. So we're just going to do the best we can to measure properly. But, you know, having an actual measuring tape instead of just eyeballing it, that'd probably be a better idea. But, you know, I just apparently don't measure things because, like, I couldn't even tell you the dimensions of that top piece with the shaker panel. I literally just cut a piece of cardstock that I thought was bigger than the numbers, and it was less than 5 1/2 inches. So it is what it is. But as we see here, I'm realizing that I cut this piece and it's just a tiny bit too short. I did cut one strip of the tape in half, like widthwise, because there wasn't enough space at each of the ends to put the full width of the cardstock in there. Or not the cardstock, sorry, the full width of the foam tape. So we are doing that, and I had to like stretch it out. Like once I took the backing off it, I had to stretch it out. And we are putting the anti-static powder tool around on the tape so that it does not stick and that the shaker bits don't stick to it. I'm not sure who I learned that trick from, but it's a great trick. We're going to put a whole bunch of those silver bits in there, and these shaker bits are all from Michael's. My husband took me shopping a couple years ago on my birthday, and I got them, and I was like, what the heck will I do with all these? But now that I realize I need way more than I initially thought for shakers, they probably won't last as long as I initially thought, because I used like a ton of them. And then we're going to very, very, very carefully take the backing off of the foam tape. And yeah, see there, I'm trying to like not pop up the whole thing so it doesn't make the shaker bits go everywhere. And if I had like half a sense about me, I would have probably put my tweezers or something in there to hold it down instead of my fingers, but it is what it is. And then we're going to put the back on there. And yes, the back is a tiny bit smaller than the front. That was intentional so that I wouldn't see the back if I didn't line it up perfectly straight. And look at that. That's so cool. I love how that looks. Awesome. I did finally fill up a shaker enough. All right. So I decided to use my, what the heck am I doing now? Oh, I'm making a sentiment. I forgot what I was doing here. I did decide that I'm going to use that chevron embossing folder that you see up there at the top. We're going to emboss a card panel for that. And this is a sentiment strip from Tailored Expressions. And I didn't really want to punch out or like stamp all the sentiments. I just wanted to do the one. So I lined it up, and I'm using my embossing dauber that I just got. And we're going to emboss it. I don't know why it cut from that to that, but it did. So here's the embossed panel and the sentiment strip. I did emboss that with some silver embossing, and we are coming close to the finish line. I just want to trim this down, make sure it's not too big. After we embossed it, we are going to put some of that score tape on the back of the shaker panel because it is going to go on that embossed card background. So we just want to make sure that the adhesion is nice and strong. I have used the Tailored Expressions stamps like the way that I just was showing you, with just lining up a strip of cardstock and just doing one at a time. I could do all of them, but sometimes I just don't feel like it, so I just kind of like isolate that one with masking it off the rest of them and just do one, and it works pretty well. I like it. So here is close to the finish line for our monochromatic card, and we are going to cut some foam strips for the back of our sentiment strip. And I think our sentiment, even though it's really hard to read on camera, it says pop, clink, fizz, or something like that, which I thought was a great sentiment for New Year's, because usually people are celebrating with champagne, which that made me think of champagne. I don't know. I don't really have too much like New Year's-y type of stuff, because we don't really do much New Year's celebration at my house because we have little kids, and it's just never really been a thing. We don't really like to go out and party. So, yep, pop, clink, cheers is what it says. And there's the finished product. I'm obsessed. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great New Year's, and see you next year. Bye.